So good evening everyone. So I hope everyone is here right now, and today it's going to be really good session and I hope everyone will enjoy. So tonight especially, what we are going to do, we are going to analyze our 2023 June exam and we'll start with shift second. So write something in the chat box so I'll know how many of you are there quickly. So I'll start right away. And I just want to talk about a couple of things. Like, as I told you, when I was just making this analysis, what I found, and I was really amazed to see, like every single questions were like coming from our PYQ explanation series. And I was while I was doing, I also said many times that this question will come. I also made like 80% percentage. 80% is the chance that you will get this particular question, and you won't believe, like 7 of those questions came already. And in fact, every single question were there from our PYQ explanation. So it's not some, they didn't ask us new thing there, because as only like 10 or 15 questions I can say that they have little bit new topic over there. But again, it's the same old process that they are doing, same thing they are repeating, and through PYQ explanation we will find out what we have discussed in our previous sessions and how many questions really came in this 2023 June. So we'll start with shift second. Just give me a moment because I really need to know how many of you are there. I'll just open another laptop and see, then I can interact better, right? So just give me a moment and I'll be back. So guys, everything is ready now, and now we'll just start, right? So here it comes. Write something in the chat box, say hi, then I'll know how many of you are there. Again, this is going to be very informative session. So I would want everybody to like the video first, and also if you can, please subscribe the channel of course leaves comments. So anyway, let's begin. So here is the first question in your screen, and you have to answer if you know that. Okay. So the first question says, who among the following acknowledged that poetry is formed from the same element as prose? The difference lies in the different combination of three elements and the difference of purpose. Can you tell me if you know the answer? I cannot see anyone here. Maybe you all are busy somewhere. But anyway, you'll get the video. You can watch it later. Right. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone yet. Okay, we'll start anyway. So the first question. Think about the question. It is talking about what formed from the same element. What? That poetry. Right? Poetry is formed from the same elements as prose. So the difference lies in different combination of these elements. Can you tell me if you know about what this element and difference thing, where did you find? Is it in Dryden? Definitely not, right? It's from Biographia Literaria. So you can answer it now. It is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And in our previous session, in that the same thing that we have thoroughly discussed on this chapter 14. And there we talked about what these elements and these difference, right? And I tell you the same question I was saying from chapter number 14, you will get the question. And we also discussed really well that chapter, especially 14, and the question is there, right? The answer now I'll show you, and it's in your screen. So as you can see, this is the whole paragraph from where? Biographia Literaria. And it starts with philosophical disquisition, and also it consists in just distinction. So he talked about the differences and the distinction. And a poem contains what? The same element as prose composition. So the difference therefore must consist in a different combination of them and in consequences of a different object. So the kind of whole line they have given. So it was quite easy. If you would have remembered that, you would have answered it correctly. And remember, this is second shift. Okay. And again, so that was about, and as we know about St. Coleridge. So here you can see the description about that St. Coleridge. And again, question number 2 is in your screen, and this is about statement. So while we were discussing that in our previous session about that Plato and Aristotle, and we were keep repeating throughout the whole criticism the same dialogue, right? So unlike Plato, what Aristotle considers that poetry at its best require what? Great skill, and also differentiates between good and bad poetry. So he definitely talked about good and bad poetry. And as we know what Plato said about that poetry, that it is a mother of lies. So this statement seems quite correct, right? So what do you think? Can you answer this? So one is definitely true, and it would have been easy for you if you just know a little bit about Aristotle and Plato. Okay, and Aristotle what accepts Plato's insight. So tell me, did he really accepted what Plato's insight was there for the for the poetry? As we know, Plato said that the poetry should be banished from what the idealist stage, right? He didn't like openly accepted poetry, but he also talked something inside that the emotions are important to poetry, but rejects Plato's distrust of emotion. So again, what Aristotle accepts what the insight that the emotions are important to poetry, but rejects Plato. So we know that Aristotle rejected what Plato's distrust of the emotion. So as we know, this is we will have another session on that also in our course. But remember that we have already discussed the same thing. They are keep repeating, right? So do you think the first two question, do you find anything new? It's the same, right? That's why I keep telling that every time you should focus on PYQ. Not only solving doesn't help you. What helps? The proper explanation, all the options, and why these options, they have put in the first place. There must be some relation between that. That's why they put, and also they make, these kind of option confuse you. And in our PYQ explanation, that's what we do, right? So let's move to the explanation. So as we know, here you can see the explanation. Both the statements are true. So one we know that is, but why the second statement was confused? Because we have studied, right, that Aristotle didn't accept Plato's claim for poetry, that the mother of light. So here in the second statements makes like Plato's insight that the emotions are important to poetry. So that kind of question really confuses, because as you know that Aristotle rejects, right, Plato's about that distrust of emotion, but here there are two things. So that's how you get confused, and you might have put like statement 1 is true but a statement 2 is false. In fact, both the statements are true, because here but rejects the Plato's distrust. So that there you should really stress a little bit. So then you will find the correct. So both the statements are definitely true. So again, we have the full description of the particular question, and of course it's our volume 5, and volume 5 is really well made. So as you can see, I have just got one whole paragraph I took from the on the art of poetry by Aristotle. There he said, what they differ also in their constitute some being common to both, others peculiar to tragedy. Hence, a judge of a good and bad in tragedy and also in poetry. So if you only think like he talked about only tragedies, according to him, that poetry is also there. So that's how you will. And the second statement was also there, the same thing. I took again another paragraph from on the art of poetry. So here what he does, he actually accepts the emotions from Plato's, but distrust of poetry he rejects. Who? Aristotle rejects. So that is your answer. So again, the third question. So two questions we already discussed previously, and you see the marks, the question really came. So again, let's see what about the third one. Which famous English poet at an early age announcing his admiration for D.H. Lawrence. So can you tell me about D.H. Lawrence's work? Who was the author? I mean, whoever the author or critic was really admired by D.H. Lawrence. Any relation you can call. And he wrote what? I have been reading Sons and Lovers and feel like ready to die. If Lawrence had been killed after writing that book, he'd still be England's greatest novelist. So who said this? And you know, these all four options here you see are very confusing because all of them are somewhere related to D.H. Lawrence. They all talked about D.H. Lawrence. Let's see the explanation. Our answer is Philip Larkin. And on March 20th, 1942, when Larkin was 19, he expressed his excitement to his friend named Jim Sutton about his admiration of D.H. Lawrence. And what he actually said? The same thing, right? That still be considered England's greatest. Let's move to the other one. Like here, Virginia Woolf also said what? Notes on D.H. Lawrence, May 18. Sorry, this date is a little bit confusing. Anyway, not confusing, it's just mistake. So, here it says again that she talked about from his angle, Sons and Lovers emerge with astonishing vividness, like an island from off which the mist has suddenly lifted. All of these Virginia Woolf also talked about. And W.H. Auden also said about Lawrence that W.H. Auden captured this phenomena by recording how women traveling great distance, anyway, dedicated to Lawrence. So there was something. Then again, Raymond Williams on Lawrence, what he said, that the Raymond Williams noted that after the war, Lawrence became a figure of immense fascination and desire. Right. Question number 4, you can see, which among the following was not written by Thomas Carlyle? It's so easy when we had the session on this, especially these kind of questions. We all talked about that Thomas Carlyle is like 100%. One question will come from Thomas Carlyle. If not directly, indirectly it might come. So the same question was there in previous year. I mean the past years, if I can say. We all know Thomas Carlyle wrote Sartor Resartor. So this option eliminated. The Stones of Venice is, everybody knows, right? The Life of John Sterling, Signs of the Time. So when we did the explanation or when we discussed about all these things, we always say, when you remember when you read about particular poet or playwright or novelist, you should always remember the first work and the last work. So through that, that chronologically order will be easily solved, right? You don't have to remember the whole work, the order of the whole work, just first and the last. Through that, what happens actually, you get like 75% of chances that your answer will be correct. And that technique we discussed in our videos, and that you can find in YouTube anyway, somewhere, I don't know where. So let's see. So we know that the Stone of Venice is written by John Ruskin. So it was quite like easy for you all, right? So the Stones of Venice was by Ruskin, and it is in 3 volumes from 1851 to 1853. And what it does, it is the examination of Venetian architecture. And Ruskin provides detailed description. So that is about the work. Other explanation, as we know here, chronologically is there: German Romance, Wilhelm Mr. Apprentice and Travel, and the life of the other, not important, right? What we are talking about, the Resorters, and then we have the life of John Sterling. So these are the work written by Thomas Carlyle, right? So it was easy. And Science of Time is also written by Carlyle. Question number 5 is there. Given below are the two statements. One is as assertion and the reason, right? A says, assertion says, James Ellroy. So that was new, very new. And why this question is important? Because you might get, free marks for that. Because, if you just dive a little bit deeper, maybe I will sound a little bit, insane, but think about that. James Ellroy here, the statement says, writing crime fiction, commencing with browser. So the first statement is quite true. So assertion is true. Reason, James Ellroy's mother was murdered in 1958. This is also true. But started writing crime fiction with Bro's Requiem. And because James Ellroy's mother was murdered in 1950. Both the statements are true, right? But there is not a specific reason that only because his mother was murdered, that's why he started writing crime fiction. He started actually reading crime fiction, not writing. So maybe you might get answer if you would have challenged that. But anyway, both A are correct and R is the correct explanation. That is what UGC has given, right? But it can be challenged. So the challenge would be like, while the reason is true and provides some context for Ellroy's career choice in crime fiction, it is not directly explained or connected to the assertion. So that's how it will be. It could, you might have, you might get 2 marks for that, but who knows? We are not above UGC, right? But there 2 of our students, they actually challenged that question because of this explanation. So anyway, who among the following displays an influence of? It is like so easy, and that question we have discussed not once but almost like 10 times about that, right? So easy for you, Grease Garnet. No need any discussion for that. But if you want analysis, you can get the book, right? And it is there. Both the shift are there, and the book will be available next week. It's gone for printing. So again, match the following. It should be like, cakewalk for you all because it's so easy. Can you write in the chat box? I'll give you the option. I hope you can see. Fine. So, list 1. Tell me about David Hume. Can you recognize the work? Write in the chat box. Okay, by the way. We'll cover 10 question only today, and tomorrow we'll complete it, right? Because it's starting and I don't see people here. I think we have to inform them early. Let's move to the easiest one, right? Edward Gibbon. So easy. What? The decline and fall of the Roman Empire, which was published when the date is also important, 1776 to 1789. Not only one volume but multiple volume. Then again, the easiest one, Tobias Smollett. So this is actually, this can also be, wait a minute, confusing. You might get another answer, 2 marks for that, because you know what, a complete history of England, the whole title is David Hume, right? So in fact it could, David Hume also wrote on that, a complete history of England, and it was Smollett also with the full title, a complete history of England, David Hume, by David Hume. That was the, so that is quite confusing, and you might get another 2 marks for that, but not sure for it. You can see the explanation. Let me tell you, okay, so here is the explanation. As we know, the decline and the fall of Roman Empire is by Edward Gibbon, a complete history of England, and full title is a complete history of England by David Hume. So this is the whole name of the work by Smollett, adding his own continuation of the history of England. That could, you might get 2 marks, but anyway, let's hope for the best. So Treatise on Human Nature, so easy. This is a philosophical work by David Hume. Inquiry Concerning Political Justice, this is by William Godwin. And question number 8, arrange the following works in the chronological. That should be quite confusing because they have mixed, right? So can you make a guess which one came first? So according to explanation, it is the Dumb Dancer by Asif Karamboy, which was published in 1961. Then we have Goa, which was written in 1964, and the Dumb Dancer, this is all by Asif Karamboy, right? The Hungry Ones, so that Hungry Ones, we many times we talked about that topic, and I guess this question also came there. You will find it in the next question, but anyway, the Writers Workshop is by published 3 plays, which includes Nalini, Marriage, and The Sleepwalker. What is our marriage poem, right? The Marriage, 69. And G.V. Patel's Mr. Behram. The last one was Tara, which was published a little bit confusing, is it 1995? Could be, but so you can all access this explanation. Anyway, question number 9 is there, which of the following explains the difference between conceptual research and empirical research? Can you tell me if you know the answer? Read it. I'll give you a couple of minutes. So let's a little bit, I'll give you some hint. Empirical means what? We all, many times we talked about, right? The empirical. And empirical is mostly on what? Observation. It relies on observation and data collection. And it could be, it uses methods like experiments and surveys, right? And it involves systematic gathering of empirical evidence. So here let's find out which could be the correct one. And next thing, conceptual is what? It is what you guys do in humanities and all, right? You get in one kind of ideas and you create theory and you develop kind of your new concepts and frameworks, right? And it is mostly like philosophical or theoretical inquiries. It doesn't require any data, observation of numerical data and all these things. So through that you could understand. So here it says conceptual research. Let's find out. The former of the two is related to some abstract idea, yes, or the theory, of course. And empirical research is what? The later relies on the experience and observation. That is definitely true, right? But we'll move to the other. What? Based on the measurement of quantity. So definitely it's just, you can avoid it, eliminate it, आँखें बंद करके, right? And the later is concerned with qualitative phenomena. So qualitative and quantitative both are there in empirical. So, and again, with the first one we can easily eliminate. The former of the two includes what? Survey and fact-finding inquiries. Survey and fact-finding inquiries, and the fitter use information already available to make critical evaluation of the material. And the former aims what? The first one, solution of an immediate problem. No, that is action research, right? And the later is concerned mainly generalization and formulation of theory. So completely all are mess up. So the first one is true for us. Easy now, right? Here are the points for the conceptual and empirical research. Question number 10. Here we're talking about match the following. So let's move to the easiest one. William Faulkner, Light in August, right? You must be wondering why it is. So, easy one. William Faulkner, Ernest Hemingway, then all are a little bit confusing, right? And the Herman Melville is Typee that we talked about many times, about the Polynesian War, right? In our previous classes. And we talked about that question might come. And we were not sure, because it was not trending at that time, but see what they actually asked it. Can you believe it? But anyway, let's see. Typee is by Herman Melville. We often talk about this work. And Light in August, easy, Faulkner. So if you knew that William Faulkner wrote August, so B second is where? In only one, right? Easy, you just answer. You don't have to even look for the others also, right? Less than 30 seconds and you will answer. And Pudd'nhead Wilson, pen by who? Mark Twain in 18. Across the River and Into the Trees, it is by Hemingway, which was published in 1950. And question 11, and that from 11 will start. Just because I don't see like enough participant here, so we might take this class tomorrow, and I'll post it in advance, so you will just save it in your diary or whatever. You have to be here. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now you can see if question number 11. Let's finish this also. Joseph Edition was what associated with which of the following? So we know Spectator, we know the Tatler. So B and C, B and D. Two, easy. You didn't even have to look. This time I think they didn't ask many confusing option, so that's how I think you guys must have scored well. Anyway, you didn't tell me your score yet, so when the final key answer key comes, you have to tell me, right, how many did you score and all. By the way, thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.